Okay. Okay, basically, the Gemara to the rest of the parak is sweet Gemara and nice and easy. We learned in our Mishnah, we're on today's daf, is Masechet Kiddushin Daf Pei Aleph, and we're starting from Pei Amid Beis, name of Masnisid Loika Abashol. It's the middle of the page. So the Gemara is saying over here, we learned in our Mishnah that Yichud, being alone with a woman, one woman is not allowed to be with one woman is allowed to be with two men, but two women and one man, that's no good. Two women and one man is no good. So the Gemara says, let's make it big. Let us say our Mishnah is not like the opinion of Abishol. Why? The time we learned in the Brisa, if a baby dies and their basic kvaris was outside the city, so they can just grab the baby, wrap him up with a sheet, and you can have one woman with two men, as you know, take it out to the cemetery and bury it. Now, one woman and two men is permitted because the two men are not going to engage in sexual with the woman because they're ashamed of each other. Avaloi, but it won't work. You have one man and two women, it's not going to work. Which is like our Mishnah. Mishal says, so you can even have one man and two women carry the baby out, and there's no problem of yichud. See, so our Mishnah maybe doesn't go with the opinion of Abishol. Says the Gemara, Filatema Abishol. You can say our Mishnah goes according to Abishol. Bishnas aninas tvir yitzrei, because when you're in mourning, nobody's thinking about sexual activity, and therefore the exception to the rule is when they're involved in burying a baby, then ish echad, one man and two women are also okay.
But this is outdoors. I thought it was different for Yichud outdoors to begin with.
Yeah, well, when we say outdoors, doesn't matter outdoors. It's just being alone in a field with the two women, one man and two women out in the field alone, and the women.
It's the same as being in a closed room.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay.
It's just being alone,
okay.
And then the two women will be seduced by the one man. So Rabbanan Savre, Rabbanan hold that even when they're burying a child, ish echad shtei nashim is a problem. One man and two women is a problem. Why? They hold Rabbi Yitzchak like Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak said, "Ma yisoinen odom chai gever al chatav." That means, ma yisoinen, no matter how great the mourning is, odom chai, if you're still alive, gever al chatav, you have to overcome the Yetzer Hara. Afilu b'shas aninusai, even when you're an einin, when you're mourning, shel adam yitzroi miskaber olav, the Yetzer Hara is overpowering, and it's a very funny thing. You would think that you're in mourning, you're not thinking about anything else, but that's what the Rabbanan hold. But Abashol disagrees with that. He says when people are involved in mourning and avelos, right, they're not thinking about sexual activities. So how does he learn this pasuk? Mayis oining odem chai geva chatav. So here it's a beautiful taich Abba Shol had in this pasuk. He kisibahu. That pasuk is talking about b'misraim al midaisav. Someone who complains against how God deals with him. He thinks God is unfair. V'achi kamar, and this is what the pasuk means to say. Mayisraim al midaisav. Why are you complaining against the way God deals with you? V'chigavar al yichatav. Are you free of sin? Did you overpower your Yetzer Hara? Of course not. No one can say that. Daye, it should be enough. Look at the positive. Chaim shenasati, like I gave you life. So a person should say the fact that you're alive, there's no reason to complain. And let's skip this Rabbanan because Rashi's not going to sit. Okay, who Maisa the he itisa. There's a Maisa in Bayit Kata, we learned that a woman lost one child and she was crying hysterically and she never got over it until she lost 7 children, right? And then she died. She just didn't know how to handle, she always had these complaints against God. So God said, if you're complaining against me, I'll bring something worse. And then it escalated. So that's the point of how Abishol learns the pasuk. Mayisoinin Adam. What are you complaining about? Chai, you're alive. Gever al chatoiv, did you overpower your sin? Okay, the Mishnah said, Aval isha achas, one woman with two men is okay. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, Yehuda said, Lo yishon al beksherim, only by normal people. Aval prutzim, people who are immoral or steeped in moral sexual immorality. Afilu be'asara nami loy. One woman with 10 of these men certainly is no good, can't be. Hava Maisa, there was a story of a woman who was an ish, a married woman. They pretended she was died, and 10 men, like from the Chevra Kadisha, took her out to be buried, and they committed the avon, the avera. So we see that if you're dealing with people who are involved and steeped in sexual immorality, then there's an Isser Yichud with one woman, even with two men. Amar Rav Yosef says, Peda a proof. Sometimes you can see 10 men steal a big beam and they're not ashamed of each other, because people who are immoral, even amongst men, they're not going to be ashamed with each other. But if you're dealing with a normal person, then there's no yichud, because the men will be ashamed to do a sin in front of the other one. Name of Messiah, let us proof that when there's a concern of prutzim, that you are extra careful, because it says by a soita, as she's being brought, a woman who's under suspicion is being brought to you from her city to Yerushalayim to drink the sota waters. Now she can't have any relations with her husband. So Moisrun lo shnei talmidei chachamim, the Bezdin gives her 2 talmidei chachamim, and they escort her from her city to Yerushalayim. Why? They have to watch that the husband doesn't have relations with her on the road, because if he does, then the site of waters are not going to work. Now, why does the Brisa say that they give her 2 talmidei chachamim? Talmidei chachamim and inish amaloi. They'll only give her 2 talmidei chachamim and nobody else. So we see that if there is a problem of prutzim, of people who are not so kosher, then we're worried to send them on the road with this lady. No, says the Gemara Chani talmidei chachamim. The Yodei, we go on to the Amar Aleph, Pei Aleph, Lasrui Bey. It's not because of the yichud problem we're sending talmidei chachamim. We're sending talmidei chachamim because we need them, people who know how to warn the husband, who got to say to the husband, hey, you cannot, if you're going to have relations with your wife here, the Mesoita waters are not going to work. So it's not a yichud thing that they had these talmidei chachamim. Ama Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Lo Yishanu El Be'ir. A one woman with 2 men, that's yichud. That's not yichud in the city. Aval b'derech, if they're on the road, then you need one woman with 3 men. Actually, yishloishu. Why? One of the men is going to have to go to the bathroom, and he's going to distance himself from the other man, and therefore, and then one is going to have yichud not with the erva, but with the lady, even if it's not an erva, but he'll have yichud. So therefore, because the roads, because on the road, people get separated, you need to have 3 men with 1 woman. In the city, you can duck into an alleyway and take a leak and then come back, so it's not a problem. But on the road, it's more of a problem. Therefore, they required 3. Name a Messiah, let us prove. By the Soita, there's actually 3 people. Trey, V'iu, Hatla, so you have 2, him, the husband, so you have 3 people. Why do you have to have 3 people? Because you need 3 men with 1 woman, so that it's not yichud. Isn't that the reason why you had 2 people? And says the Gemara, no, it's not because of the yichud problem they are adding these 2 men along with the husband. It's because they have to be witnesses to say that the husband had relations with his wife, therefore the Saita waters are not going to work. So it's not. So this is not such a proof to Rav Yehuda Amar Rav said. Now the Gemara tells us a good Geschmacka story. Rav Yehuda v'Kazli b'Urcha. Rav and Yehuda were going on the road. Hava ka'azli hayi itzas kameh. There was a woman walking in front of them. Amalei Rav Rav Yehuda. So Rav said to Rav Yehuda, Dal karech mikamei gehenom. Let's rush. Dal karech mikamei gehenom. Let's quicken our pace to get past this lady. There was a lady in front of them. Let's run and not walk behind her. Amalei. So Rav Yehuda said to Rav, if you're dealing with normal people, it's not such a yichud. over here with one woman and two men. We're kasherim. We're normal people. Amalei, no, we're not so kasher. Are we talking about the type of kosher people like me and you? That's not what the Gemara what was meant. We are considered like prutzim, like we're immoral compared to what I was referring to, El Kagoin Mai, who's considered a pure kosher individual. Kagoin Rab Chanina bar Papi b'chaver, Chanina bar Papi, and other Mandiyomrim who would actually go into an oven if they were thinking that if they were seduced to do an avera, or they would run to a place, a dangerous place, and not care for themselves, for their own physical safety, in order not to do, if they were propositioned to do an avera, they would, do something extraordinary that was life-risking in order not to do those averas. So those are tzaddikim who are not going to do such averas. But me and you, we are not considered so kosher, and therefore let's quicken our pace and get out of here, because we're like yichud with this lady. Okay, this is a chumrah, because the truth is, the halacha is that normal people, two men with one lady, is not considered yichud. Amar Rav said malkin al yichud. If a man has yichud with a woman, so you can give him malkus d'rabbanan, right? Vein oisun al yichud. But if he has yichud with a married lady, then you don't say that married lady is now asur to her husband. That you don't go that far. Amar Ravashi said, Loi amran ela b'yichud pnuya. It was only said by a yichud pnuya. In other words, if you have yichud with an unmarried lady, right, then you give malchus. Aval b'yichud ha'eshes ish. If someone has yichud with a married woman, so you would think it's worse. You should give malchus for that. Loi, you don't give malchus. Why? Because if you give malchus to the married woman, because she had yichud with somebody else, a strange man, people are gonna say, oh, this woman, she probably slept around and her children are mamzerim, and that may not be true. You shouldn't put out a rumor al boneha on her children. Nevertheless, Mar Zutra, Malki umachris, he would give malchus to a married lady who had yichud with a strange man, and umachris, and will say, oh, by the way, the children are okay, and they're not mamzerim. Why don't you do? Rav Nachman said to Rav Ashi, why don't you do the same thing? Give malchus to the married ladies and scream out, hey, by the way, her children are kosher. That's not always a good idea. Some people hear this, but they won't hear the other part. So they'll hear giving the malchus, they're not going to hear that the children are okay. So it's risky. So therefore, he wouldn't give malchus to a married lady. Amar Rav said, Malkin aloi toiva shmua. Wow, if a person has a bad reputation, people are saying about a guy that he's sleeping around with women. So then, even though we don't have concrete proof, we even give malchus. Bezdin would give malchus for that. Shenema, because the pasuk says it's a remez. In Tanakh it says, Eli said to his children, Al bonhai, you're doing something no. Because I don't hear good reports about you. So he said it in like a loisese language. So it's a hint that you get malchus when you hear that people are doing things that are not correct, not right. Mar Zutra moisivla afsera al kaspe. He put the bridle of a donkey on the person's shoulder. Umakrele, and he would scream out, Al bonai, I'm giving you malchus because I hear bad things about you. So that's how it was when they had Bezdin had that power. Amar Rabba, another halacha, Bala Be'ir, if the husband is in the city, Ein Choshesh Mishum Yichud, there's no Yichud. So if the husband is, I don't know what this means, but how far you would call city, but if a wife calls a plumber to fix something in the house and the husband's working in the same city, so then there's no yichud, because the husband can walk in at any time, or the wife is afraid to do anything with the plumber because she knows her husband is nearby. Amar Rav Yosef says, Pesach Pesuach Rishus Harabim, if you keep the door open or unlocked, Ein Choshesh Mishum Yichud, there's no problem of yichud. Says the Gemara a story, now a couple of stories. Rabbeba Iklil Bei Rav Yosef. Rabbeba ate supper by Rav Yosef's house. Basa de Karach Rifta, after they ate their bread and had supper, they were retiring to the night. So the ground floor had the main bedrooms, and then there was a ladder. You went up to the attic for the guest bedroom. Amalahu, Rav Yosef said, "Shkol darga mitusi beva." Take away the ladder after baby goes up to the second floor. Take away the ladder, and he shouldn't be able to come down in the middle of the night. Says the Gemara of Rabba said, if the husband is in the city, you're not problem of yichud. And here, Rav Yosef is probably sleeping on the downstairs with his wife. Why was he scared by Beba that he had to pull away the ladder so Beba could not come down come down to the first floor? And says the Gemara, Shani Rabeba the Shafifli the Hava Bagaisebe. Rabbi like was an old boyfriend, so to speak, of Rav Yosef's wife. So they know each other. So he had to be took extra precaution, even though normally there's no yichud over here because the husband's around. But since Rabbi had a previous relationship with Rav Yosef's wife, so therefore he took away the ladder after he went up to the second floor to sleep. He took away the ladder so he can't come down in the middle of the night. Amar Rav Kahana said, that makes sense. If you have two rooms, one inner room and one outer room. So if the men are in the outer room and the women are in the inner room, so the women who are in the inner room, when they want to leave, they go into the outer room, which is where the men are. So you have one woman amongst many men, so there's no problem of yichud. But if it's the other way around, if you have the men on the inside and the women on the outside, so that when the men have to go, they have to go into the women, to the women. So then you'll have one man amongst many women. So that's that's a problem of yichud. But the Brisa says no, just the opposite, and it's a very interesting reason. For example, when there's men on the inside and the women on the outside, even though when the men want to come to the outside, there's yichud, but it's just for a minute because maybe another man is going to come out, so he's not going to do any avera. But in the opposite case, when the nashim b'chutz, the nashim b'fnim, the Brisa learned there's a problem of yichud. The first case is because maybe the men that are on the outside, one man is going to break away and go into the inside because nobody's paying attention. Nobody goes in that direction, and he'll be one man amongst many ladies. So therefore, it's opposite. So we always go to chumrah. Doesn't matter if you have two rooms where that they're connected with each other, men on the inside, women on the outside, or the opposite. It is a problem of yichud. That's not a good way to set up a hall. Says the Gemara, Abaya. So when he had to set up let's say a bar mitzvah, a party hall or a place where he gave shiurim for men and ladies, dayer gulfe. He would separate the men and the women by like pottery shards, so that if anybody crossed over, they made a lot of noise. Rava dayer kane. Rava would put reeds on the floor, again, things that crunch, and therefore people would hesitate from crossing over from the men to the women. Amar oven sapta deshata rigla. The most vulnerable time of year is the Yom Tov time, because again, men and women are dressed up nicely, and you meet your friend's wife, whatever, and therefore it's a big problem during Yom Tov. For this reason, they fast the Bahab after the Yom Tov, the Beis Hey Beis. Now the Gemara says a couple of stories. There were hostages that came, girl hostages that came to Nardoi. So Askinu lebei Rav Amram Chasida. Gemara says a fantastic story. They brought it to Rav Amram Chasida. Ishkulu dargu mikame. He put these girls onto the attic and he took away the steps because they're girls. They stayed in his house. One girl crossed the opening of the ceiling, and a light came through because she was a very attractive girl, and it came to the bottom floor. So the Gemara says, "Shaklei Rav Amle darga deloy havi yochlam beyasar lemidlei dol yolechudlei salik va'oza." Rav Amram took this heavy ladder that you needed 10 people to move, and he moved it by himself, and he started to climb up. He just wanted to be with that girl. When he came to the middle of the ladder, ifshach, he stopped. He got a hold of himself. Rama Kaila, he started to scream, Nura Beya Amram, I have a fire in my house. So Rabbanim, the rabbis came. And now they see the rabbi, Rav Amram, is on his way up to do an avon with the girls. Amr lay, so they said to him, Kisiftan, you're embarrassing us. Here you're our rabbi, and look what you're doing. Amar lahu, so he told them, it's a beautiful thing. Mutaf tichsafu be Amram ba'alma hadain. It's better to be Amram to be shamed on this world, like tichsafu minei la'alma dase, and I will not be shamed on the next world. He's pretty honest about himself. Ashbe, he made a shvua, the yimpuk b'nei. He made a shvua that the Yetzer Hara should leave him because it was so powerful. Nafik b'nei ki amuda denura. A fire, a pillar of fire came out of Rav Amram's body. Amr Lei, he said, Chazu, look at you, the At Nura, you Yetzer Hara are fire. I'm just a flesh and blood, and therefore fire burns flesh. But nevertheless, I'm better than you. I overpowered my Yetzer Hara. Now the Gemara says it wasn't just an Amira. Rabbi Meir, the holy Rabbi Meir, have a misloitzis ba'ivere. He would mock people who were involved in sexual immorality. Yom echad, so the Satan tested him. Idamale Satan ki itzisa b'chad hisa denahara. The Satan came to him and appeared to him like a beautiful woman on the other side of the river. Lo yahava mavra, there was no ferry to get across. Nakat mitzra v'ka'avar. He took a very there was like a rope bridge that was very dangerous. And Reb Meir started to go to the other side to be with that woman. Kimata palga mitzra, when he came to halfway through the rope bridge, Shafke, he stopped and got a hold of himself. And the Yetzer Hara, so to speak, left Rab Meir. Omar, the Yetzer Hara said to him, the Sultan said, if they didn't say to me in Shemayim, be careful with Rab Meir and his Torah, don't start up with him, I would have made your value be 2 pennies. In other words, I would have totally ruined your reputation, Rabbi Meir. Similar story to Rabbi Kiva. It's just telling you how even the great Tanoim had to deal with the Yetzer Hara. Rabbi Kiva have a misleitzi b'ivri avera. Yom echad idamele satan kitzis ubrei shtikla. He would mock people who were involved in sexual morality, and one day the Satan appeared to him on top of a palm tree. He got a hold of the palm tree and he started to climb to the top of the palm tree. And it's a dangerous climb. When he came to half of the palm tree, the Satan let go of him. In other words, he didn't feel that drive anymore. The Satan said, he loved the if they didn't scream out in Shemayim, be careful with Rabbi Akiva and his Torah, I would have made you like 2 pennies. In other words, I would have ruined your reputation, Rabbi Akiva. Now the Gemara says a third story. Plema hava rogel lemema kol yoma. Plema, you would say every day, gira be'ena de Satan, arrows in the eyes of Satan. The Satan is easy to overcome. Okay, Yom Echad Mal Yom de Kippur Hava. There was one day Erev Yom Kippur. Idam ele ka'anya. The Satan appeared to him like a poor man. Erev Yom Kippur, and they're eating the Sudas Amavsekis. The Sudas Yom Kippur. Asekra Abava. So he knocked on the door. They brought him out a piece of bread. Amr Lei. So he said to the people in the house, everybody's on the outside. Everybody's eating on the inside, and I should eat outside. They brought this poor person to the table by the Sudas Amakvesos, by a Krivale Rift, and they brought him bread. Amalei, so the Sultan said, Yomaki Yidana, you're letting me eat alone by myself, and everybody else is on the dining room table in the dining room. Let me eat with you. So they brought the poor man, who really is the Satan dressed up as a poor man, right? And they have him eat the Sudas HaMasechtas together with Plimi and his family. He was sitting and had covered himself with boils and pus, and he was doing very repulsive things. He was making himself disgusting to be at a table. Amalei. So they told Rav Dimi said, we go to Amid Beis, another 3 minutes and then we'll stop. Tiv Shapir. Sit nice and don't do any repulsive things. You're ruining our meal. Amalei. So the Sultan said, Havli Kasa, give me a drink. Yavle Kasa, they gave him a drink. Ichma Shade Bekuche. He coughed up phlegm and spit it into the cup. Nacharibe. Then he spit it into the cup. Nacharibe, I'm sorry. They started screaming at him. Shaka umis. He pretended that he got shocked or something like that, and he died. So the poor man died at their Sudas Hamavsekes table. Shamo the Havaka Amri, they heard people saying, "Play me kotel gavra, play me killed somebody." They play me kotel kavre, and so now the police were called in. So and they're going to blame Plamy for killing this poor man. Arak v'tashan avshi bebeisa kise. So Plamy ran to the beisa kise and started to hide out. I guess there was the Beis HaKisei was somewhere far from his house. So the Satan followed him and fell before him. When he saw that Pliny was all upset, he let his body separate from himself, and now he was a malach. Amalei, my time of Amad Hachi. So the Satan said, the reason why I made this whole story and made you feel, put you under this kind of stress, is because you're always saying that Girebein is the Satan. I should throw arrows in the eyes of the Satan, like you're putting me down. So Plimi asked, well, Ema, what should I say? You should say that that Hashem should rebuke the Satan. You should ask Hashem to rebuke the Satan, but don't put down the Satan. The Satan has a lot of power, and therefore there's another way to ask God to help you, but it's not by playing down the Satan. Now, in all of Shas, I think this is one of the most fantastic stories, and this will end. Rav Chia bar Ashi have a rogel called Idin ve'idin to have a nafel ape. Every day when he would fall taknin, Rav Chia bar Ashi would say, "Harachmanan yitzilenu mi'etz hara." God saved me from having a sexual drive. Now Rav Chia bar Ashi was an old man; he wasn't so young. So Yom Echad Shmiti Debesi, his wife overheard what he's praying for. Amra, she said, "Michte hakam shani de parish leminei." It's so many years we didn't do it because I'm old, he's old. We haven't had any sexual intimacy. So my time so what's he praying for? That God should protect him and save him from a sexual drive. Yom Echad, so one day, have a Kalgaris beginte. He was Rav Chia bar Ashi was learning in the garden. So his wife Tishta Nafshe Chalfa V'Tanya Kameh. She put on her nice clothing and she passed before him in a sexual way, in an enticing way. Amallah, he said to her, Manat, who are you? He probably didn't know his wife. I don't know. Amra, she said, Ano Charusa. I'm this famous Zaina called Charusa. There was a famous whore that was called Charusa. The Hadra Yom, I just came today. I'm here in town today, but I'm going. Tava. So he propositioned her. Amr lay, so she said, if you want to do it, bring me this pomegranate that's on top of this branch, on this little branch on the tree. And it probably was hard to get to. Shavar, so Rav Chia bar Abi jumped, Azal Aisin and brought this amazing pomegranate to give to her for her payment. So he actually had sexual relations with this woman who he's thinking it's a zona, but really it turned out to be his wife. He also the basic when he came back home, his wife was putting on the oven. He felt so bad inside, so he sat in the oven. He wanted to burn himself alive. And this is Rav Chia bar Ashi. Amalei, my high. So his wife asked, "What's going on?" Amalei, this is what happened to me today. Amalei, she said to him, "Ano havai, you didn't sleep with it. You didn't have any relations with a zona. It was me." Loy Ashkava, he didn't believe her. Adiyavle Simona until she proved it with signs that it was actually her. Amallah, so he felt good and bad. He was happy that it was with it. He did it with his wife, but Anna Miali Suri Kavna. I was thinking I was doing an Avera because I thought you were a zona. Called fascinating. He would fast every day until he died from overdoing it, I guess, for putting himself under such conditions of fasting every day. Now, how do you know? Let's just finish up another minute. The Tanya we learned to the Brisa, Isha Feirim B'Hashem Yishallah B'Mea Kosav Adaber. Torah says that a husband can nullify his wife's vow, and when he does, Hashem will forgive her. What's the pasuk talking about? The pasuk is talking about a woman that made a neder not to drink wine. And her husband heard and nullified her vow. She didn't know that her husband nullified the vow. She would drink wine and metam. So, and nevertheless, it turned out she didn't do anything wrong because her husband nullified the vow. Nevertheless, she still needs a kapara. So Rabbi Kiva, when you come to this pasuk, he would cry. He said, if a person had intention to eat chazer, pig meat, and then it turned out to be kosher meat, you need a kapara. The person intended to eat basar chazir, and he actually ate basar chazir. Alachas kama v'kama. He certainly needs the kapara, not just for the act of eating, but for the intention that you had to eat, because it's an intention that brought to an action. Rabbi Kiva would come to this pasuk, he would cry. He would say, if you thought you were going to eat kosher meat, kosher fats, and it turned out that you ate treifa fats, if you have the chance to bring an aser asham talui. Mishin is kavalecha chelev achol b'yad chelev alachas kama v'kama. If you want to eat bad meat, fats, and you actually ate the bad fats, certainly you need a kapara. Isi ben Yehuda Aima, and this will end. V'layadav asham and asa avoidai al davazeh yidvu kol hadoivim. Anybody who's nervous about something, you shouldn't be nervous about your portfolio and your financial portfolio. You should be nervous about these things. That sometimes you, even if you think it turned out that you didn't even do an avera, nevertheless, if you intended to do an avera, you're going to need a kapara just for having that thought in your mind. Okay, Be'ezus Hashem, tomorrow I'm going to give out I'm going to send out the final.